Hello and welcome to Around the Hoop, the Westwood Basketball Show. I'm your host, Mike Gay, and joining me in studio is Coach Ryan Douglas.
How you doing, Mike?
Doing very well. So, Coach, last week we were here last Friday. We got to meet the captains. You had a game on the road against Dover Sherburne, and then you had two games this past week, one against Dedham and then one against Bridgewater Raynham.
Right.
Walk me through those three games.
So last Friday we traveled to Dover Sherburne, like you said. Very tough game, very well coached team, super prepared for us, and we got beaten every way we possibly could have. The boys they battled all the way through, which was good to see. We were down by 20 at a certain point, ended up losing only by 8. So the fight was there. We just didn't execute well. Then we got right back into the gym on Saturday morning and had a really good practice. All the captains and seniors spoke after the game, and they bought it. And that practice carried over into our Monday practice, which set us up nicely for Tuesday. And Dedham was a very scrappy team, but we were able to hold them off, especially a late push by them. They made the fourth quarter super interesting. And I think we won that one by 13 was the final. And then with no practice time, quick turnaround, we were right back in the gym versus Bridgewater Raynham, who beat us by 10 the first time around in December. And we were able to beat them. Another great basketball game. Third quarter was a huge battle, back and forth, big shot after big shot. And I was proud of our guys, how we played.
That's great. So the team is now one game over 500.
Yep.
You've got a stretch of games now. Again, we're getting towards the second half, middle of the second half of the season.
Right.
Talk to me a little bit about how practice and how the intensity or lack thereof has seemed, with this team to be an indicator of how they play.
It definitely is. Inconsistency's kind of been our thing, like not as a whole group, but like we'll have one drill where it's not as intense and competitive as it could be, and then a day later we do that same drill and it's awesome. And they just have to learn that they can't pick and choose. We have to be that consistent, 100% all the time. And they're starting to grasp that. And I feel like a couple of these losses has really, magnified that we can't take things lightly. We're not that type of a team that can just flip a switch and go out there and win games. We need to really put in the work and practice. And we've learned it the hard way, and the guys are working. Do
you feel that there was not necessarily a switch that they flicked with the expectation to turn it off, but after that Dover Sherburne game where they had a kind of a poor practice followed by a game where they didn't show up, it seems that the Saturday and then the Monday practices really set them up for the last couple of games. How do you make sure that happens going forward?
Just a sense of urgency. Like these seniors, they don't have any time to waste. I mean, I think it was Russell that said it, or maybe Kyle, like they only have 4 or 5 games left in the Westwood gym guaranteed to them. And I mean, I think when you start really, seeing the light and you look at the calendar, you're like, wow, there's really only 4 weeks left of this thing. So I just think that sense of urgency is carrying us over into practices. And, when things get a little dull and redundant at times, working on the same stuff, I feel like that sense of urgency is carrying us.
So you've got Bellingham tonight. What about next week? How do the games look there?
So we go right back to the beginning of our schedule. So we got Norwood on Tuesday, who's 9-0. I believe they're playing Norton tonight, and then next Friday will be Ashland, but who we beat the first time by 3 in another rock fight of a game, as Coach Leibrock used to call them.
Absolutely. Shout out to Coach Leibrock.
Yeah,
I hope he's doing well.
Shout out to him.
So snow tomorrow. So you got a game tonight in Bellingham. You got a snow day tomorrow. We're all promised, 25 to 100 inches of snow, whatever it is, Snowmageddon. No practice. You call it off. Talk about the break there and how do you kind of push the boys to stay ready for Monday and then the following week?
So this weekend, we're always going to highlight taking care of their bodies. The soft tissue work. These guys are super banged up, especially the guys that have played a lot of minutes. And then we do a lot of film work. We have Huddle, which we're able to clip plays, send them directly to those players, talk things over, and we're great with the communication, group texts and stuff like that. And then if things go according to plan, maybe Sunday we do a Zoom as a whole and we can kind of watch film together. That way at least we're getting mental reps in and guys are resting, hopefully doing the right thing, and then hit the ground running on Monday.
Awesome. So in a couple minutes we're going to meet your players of the week. There's 2 of them. Right. Talk about those 2 players and why they were chosen.
So it's Kyle Murray and Russell Dolbany. Stat-wise, they both filled up the stat sheet these past 2 games. Scoring, timely scoring from Kyle was huge. Every time we needed a bucket, he was able to get us either a tough 2. He was shooting well from the outside as well. He came the closest I think I've seen a Westwood basketball player to a triple-double. He had 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 steals. Usually you don't see it with the steals, but he was all over the place, and he's playing on one leg. I mean, he's just tough as nails. And then Russ, same thing, just timely scoring, big shot after big shot. He was in there. One of his biggest things that he took a step was in the Dedham game. He rebounded so well for us and got extra possessions, secured possessions for us, and really was a leader on the court, both with his poise and his play.
Awesome. Well, it's great to hear. So again, thank you for joining us in studio. Congratulations on the two-game winning streak. Good luck tonight in Bellingham and the next week against two tough teams.
All right, appreciate that. Thanks, Mike.
Joining us next in studio are the boys' players of the week. Welcome back, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So you're coming off 2-win, 1-loss few days since our last filming, and both of you were in studio last week. So congratulations on being the players of the week.
Thank you.
So Kyle, we'll start with you. You had a great few games, particularly in the Bridgewater-Raynham game. 17 points, 8 rebounds, 6 steals. Talk about, you mentioned last week about being a captain and what that meant, but your individual game, how do you get ready game in and game out, and what can you talk about that you're doing specifically on your end to be better for the team?
Yeah, I think in the past I've been viewed as like a pure scorer, and I think especially this year I've tried to expand my game and enhance it in many different directions in terms of doing my rebounding, more assists, steals, rather than just points. I think that effect that I've had on the team has been very impactful. So I think rather than just focusing on scoring, making winning plays has been the biggest change for me this year, which has helped the team.
Awesome. I've never been known as a pure scorer, so I have that going for me. Russ, talking about you had a phenomenal game against. Well, you all three played really well. The Dedham game, 17 points, 7 rebounds. Again, from your end, how do you try to make sure that you maintain a high level of play, not only scoring, but across the board in the other stats?
Yeah. So basically, in the game, when we're all like having fun out there and playing, it's just the game flows to you much easier, and getting good passes from my teammates and like stuff like that just helps. It's not all about points; it's about how the team's playing when you're out there, because you can score 30 points and lose, and it doesn't mean anything. So, yeah.
How does the team celebrate some of those, non-stat wins? So it might be, the right rotation on a switch. It might be, the right pass with the right hand at the right time. Are you guys aware of all those little things?
Yeah.
So you take this one.
So that shows up in film all the time. Coach has said this before. It doesn't show up in the stat book, but in our heads, we know who made the winning play or made good plays down the stretch to help us propel to the win.
Coming off 2 big wins, the road ahead. Tonight you play Bellingham. Talk a little bit about that game, and again how you maintain the intensity of the last 2 wins.
Yeah. So one thing that we can't do as a team is look at a team's record and see that they're like 3-9 and they're not good. We don't know what their situation is, if they're missing players or pieces. So we just have to come into every game with the same mentality of going there and destroying the team, because games that our team mentally isn't there, or we think it's going to be easy win, it's really not. And just I think we're starting to turn the corner where mentally we're figuring that piece out.
That's great. Kyle, well, Russ just talked about the mentality of a team that you may on paper look like you're a better team. Talk about the mentality on paper when you're going in as an underdog. How do you switch that and make sure that you don't come out with the kind of the view that you're already going to lose the game?
Yeah, I think we definitely try to use that as motivation. I think that's one of the biggest things. When we're going into a game and guys think we're going to lose, Westwood's not that good anymore. Especially the BR game last night. I think we lost to BR the first time, and I think they kind of came into the gym thinking they were going to take care of us a second time, and that kind of drove us to a fight to the very end of that game. And we came off hot. The first half was hot, second half was hot. We were really playing consistent, executing the entire game. That's what helped us.
Awesome. So last week you talked about your goals, for the second half of the season. Any changes? Still kind of finish strong, try to get a home game in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think our goal has really, centered on the playoffs and really trying to make a run, hopefully win a state championship. That's been our goal all year. The struggles we've had is the inconsistency, and I think in order to become more consistent, we got to stay focused and every practice, just bring it all the time.
Awesome. You guys looking forward to Snowmageddon tomorrow?
Yeah,
big
big
snow guy right
snowstorm.
here.
2 feet. 2 feet.
So no practice. What are you going to do? How are you going to stay sharp?
You know, one thing that us two and the rest of the team we're gonna really try and emphasize is, we'll take the off day, Saturday and Sunday. It'll be good for our bodies to get a couple of days rest, but we need to constantly make sure that we're stretching out and doing like stretches and
Taking care of the body.
Eating right foods. Try and maybe get on a treadmill if you have one, or do ball handling in the garage, even though it's gonna be cold. But we're fine.
There you go. Well, congratulations for being in the studio 2 weeks in a row. This one, not just as captains, but the player of the week. So good luck tonight and for the rest of the way.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yep. Joining us next in studio is Coach Clifford and the player of the week on the girls' side, Ava Connaughton. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So 2 games. The boys had 3 this past week with 1 makeup, and then you had 2. And then your makeups are in the near future.
They're coming.
Here. They are
Fast and
coming.
furious.
So walk us through the 2 games.
Yeah, sure. So last Friday night after we left here, we hosted Dover Sherburne. We got a really exciting overtime win. It was back and forth throughout the game. I think no shortage of hard work and effort out there, but both teams had a lot of trouble generating offense. We had a pretty significant scoring drought, and I think credit to the girls on a night like that. It's easy to just sort of to give in, and it just gets really frustrating. But whatever was happening on the offensive end, we were still locked in on defense and didn't let that carry over. So that was really important. We had Ariana Katzman hit a huge shot for us at the end of the third quarter, which was our first field goal in like 12 minutes, no exaggeration. And I just felt kind of every muscle in my body relax of like, okay, we hit one. We were still down and there was a long way to go. Our senior captain, Katie Kissel, who was here last week, just took over in the fourth. She scored 9 points in 1 minute and 50 seconds. To just sort of kind of wake us up, get us going again. And credit to Dover Sherburne, they didn't go down without a fight. They forced overtime, came back and got us there. And then in overtime, it was all Westwood. We outscored them 10-0. Olivia Williams started us off with a huge 3 to put us ahead for good. Katie made some plays. Haley Jacobson made some plays. Ava made some plays. We were able to come away with the win. So it wasn't pretty the whole night, but I think we learned a lot. And I think sometimes those are good to just prove that you can just sort of fight through anything and still get the win. So that was great.
So last week you touched on the state tournament format, and it's different this year. It's not just wins and loss. There's also the formula with the win scoring differential. So as a math teacher, did you think I would rather take a 10-point overtime win than a 2-point or 1-point regulation win?
No, I still think we drew up a pretty good play at the end. We just couldn't get a good enough look. But yeah, it was it was great. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a great plus 10 win for us. But just to get the win at all and be able to fight through that was really good for the team.
That's great. And then the last game.
So yeah, then Tuesday we went to Dedham. Really tough night. Same thing. We couldn't really get going offensively. They have a phenomenal player in Avery O'Connor who's going to the University of New Hampshire to play Division I basketball. And she can shoot and shoot she did on Tuesday. But I think I credit our toughness, and we were able to come back. We were down at halftime. Played a really good second half, I thought, and fought through some adversity and just kind of kept going on the next play. And so I was really proud of the fight. It was a really disappointing loss, but I think as long as you learn from it and can move on and make sure it doesn't happen again, I think that will be good for us. We had some bright spots. We had 3 people in double figures, which is kind of rare for us. Katie Kissel, Ariana Katzman, and Ava had 10 points as well. So I think those are, again, you always look for the positives, but we just need to make sure we learn from it. But also just turn the page and, Bill Belichick it and say we're on to Bellingham. So that's the plan.
So I spoke to Coach Douglas about correlation between intensity and kind of practice focus. Have you seen a similar correlation with the girls? Is a strong practice typically followed by a strong game, whether win or lose? Is a poor practice indicator that it's going to be a tough sled?
I don't think necessarily. I don't think there's a correlation. That's not to say that we practice well every day. That's not my point. But I think I distinctly remember the practice before our midfield win, just being like, God, I just don't think we're really locked in as much as we need to be, and we obviously won that game. So I think just working on consistency, both bringing that focus to both practices and games, is something that we're still working on, and we're definitely improving, but have a way to go, and that'll definitely be a focus as the calendar turns to February. It's starting to be crunch time, and we'll get into how crazy our schedule is going to be. So we need to make sure that we're just locked in, all 12 of us plus the coaches, and so that it remains a focus, but it's something we talk about from time to time.
Yep.
Sometimes more loudly than other from the coach, but we'll
There
see.
you go. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So why don't you tee up Ava? Welcome. This is the first time at the studio.
Yep, thank you.
So tee up the contributions that Ava has made not only in the last couple of games but throughout the season.
Yeah, very exciting. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Around the hoop. So Ava's a junior for us. Freshman year, she played JV and was called up toward the end of the season just to get some varsity exposure, and that definitely paid off. Last year, we obviously had the COVID shortened season, but did some great things for us, made a really nice jump to varsity and had a great season. And then came back this year, and you couldn't tell that it was a shortened season. Just had made some strides, and we talk about, you've always been able to make that move and get to the hoop, and now it's going in, and decision making has gotten better, and you can just sort of, when you watch the game kind of slow down for a kid, it's kind of fun. And that's what, she's fun to watch. We talk about wanting to play an upbeat brand of basketball that's fun to watch, and I think Ava leads us in that. I think her IQ is really good, her instincts are really good, just sort of has a knack for the ball. Just a kind of a freak athlete in everything she does, and makes plays on defense. Is looking to get to the hoop for us. She's the leading scorer right now. She's been in double figures 3 or 4 times. I forget exactly, but is doing a bunch for us. Hitting some big shots, and has just been really great. And we'll need to keep leaning on her as the season goes on.
That's great. So why don't you introduce yourself, and then I've got a couple of questions that we'll send your way.
Hi, I'm Ava Connaughton. I'm a point guard, and I'm number 10.
That's great. So one of the things that Coach Clifford mentioned is that you're a fairly high-level all-around athlete. You're a 3-sport athlete here at Westwood, and that has its own challenges, right? Going from one season, focused, giving it everything you have, and then you have maybe a day or two, and you turn it around, and maybe it isn't even a day or two, maybe it's an hour or two.
Yeah.
Walk us through kind of your career, the first couple of years, and now you're a junior. Walk us through that 3-sport mentality and how you're able to shift.
My 3-sport mentality, I focus a lot on the 3 sports. I put effort into all 3 of them. I think focus is very important for me. I know traveling from one sport to another, I think it's very important to stay on focus.
Okay. So soccer in the fall,
Yeah.
Basketball in the winter, lacrosse in the spring.
Yes.
Like your sister, you're committed to go to UMass Amherst to play lacrosse. Congratulations, that's
Thank you.
amazing. So when you're in season, are you just focused on that sport as far as what the demands are for your body, or are you trying to, again, fairly stay balanced with all of it?
I'll admit it, I stay fairly balanced between the sports, but I think when I'm in the sport, I stay very focused on that, but I think traveling from one sport to the other, I tend to I tend to change. I don't sports-wise, I don't know, I go from sport to
Is there a different mentality though? I mean, again, intensity. I mean, you have it. I've seen it. I've seen it in your game since you were little.
Yeah.
Whether it's basketball, soccer, or lacrosse. Is it just to be the best you can be at that sport at that moment?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
No, that's great. And how about teamwork? So, is there any difference with teamwork in the sports?
Well, with soccer, there's 28 girls, so it's hard to build more team chemistry between the 28 girls. But I think being on a sport with 12 girls, it's easy to build chemistry in
That's great.
practice and in games.
Talk about leadership. So you're a junior. You're leading the team in scoring. You've done, in many other stats as well. You're contributing to the team. While, from a captain perspective, you look to the captains to kind of lead. How do you take leadership and deliver that to the girls?
I just think confidence is key, and I know speaking for myself, I like to lead the team on and off the court, and definitely like seeing the role models, Katie and Haley and even Nikki. They do a great job leading by example, and I just kind of follow in their lead.
So, looking ahead, how do you get your game to an even higher level? There's a bunch of games coming up, again, the makeups from earlier this season. What are you doing to try to prepare yourself to really lead the team down the stretch?
I think listening to my body and resting it, when we have days off, but also going 100%, 110% on the court as always, and hoping to lead by example.
That's great. Well, it's awesome to have you in the studio. I think now you and your sister have both been here, so you can share stories. Our best to your sister and your brother,
Thank
and
you.
your other sister and your family.
Thank you so much.
So, Coach Clifford, the road ahead. So talk about tonight's game and then talk about next week.
Yeah, so tonight we have Bellingham coming in. It's our last matchup from the small side of the league, so we kind of flipped the schedule this year. And our message that we've kind of said in all those games is let's make them happy they only have to play us once. So we're looking to really go out there and win the intensity battle and just dictate tempo and sort of do that for hopefully 4 quarters tonight. So that's the goal for that game. Next week we start up with our second round on the TVL large side, and we go to Norwood for a doubleheader with the boys. We play at 5. The boys play at 6:30. They're actually doing a charity night over there for a couple Norwood families that are going through some stuff and need some support. So as a Norwood alum, I'm really excited to be able to be there for that. But it should be a great night and hopefully a couple good basketball games over there. And then next Friday night we'll host Ashland. We got them the first time around, but they're playing well. They've had a couple nice wins. They got their point guard back who wasn't playing when we were there. So the schedule's going to be tough. The month of February, I think we play 10 games in 21 days. And if you look at, like Ava just said, being able to rest and making sure we don't burn anybody out physically or mentally with off days and just with the makeup dates, I think we have one day of prep for each of our next 6 games after that week. So if there's one stretch that's going to be particularly brutal, and I think it's important all the work that the girls are doing off the court to be able to kind of stick together through that. We'll have to do work on the court to prepare for opponents, but also keep our skills sharp. And there'll be a lot of balls in the air that we're trying to juggle for a while, but we're looking forward to it. I mean, the girls are competitors. I'm not worried about them not showing up on game night. We just need to make sure that we're doing more than just surviving and that we're actually improving and making sure that we're kind of ready to peak at the end of the season.
Same question that I asked Coach Ryan Douglas. Tomorrow, snow day, no practice, I'm assuming Saturday, most likely Sunday as well. How do you make sure the girls stay in tune for the games coming up?
Yeah, I think with the stretch coming up, it might be a little bit of a blessing. I would love another day to prepare for Norwood. They're one of the best teams in the state, and we can talk about more about them next week. But I'd love to have that practice, but at the same time, it might be a nice opportunity to kind of rest up. And if there's anyone that's like sore or dinged up a little bit to have some rest, we'll talk tonight. We might do like an online kind of film session just to get a head start on Monday's practice in preparation for Norwood. So it's kind of one of the benefits of COVID is all the technology we've been forced to use, and now we can sort of access that when needed. So we may do a little something at one point this weekend just to sharpen up and make sure that we're really ready to have hopefully our best practice of the season on Monday.
That's great. Well, thank you so much again for joining us in studio.
Thank
Ava,
you.
it's awesome to have you. We
Thank
hope you make Player of the Week again, and we can talk more about the season.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at Around the Hoop. Another great week of basketball is in the books, with another just ahead. I want to thank Westwood Media Center, Melinda Garfield, Connor Lynch, and Dan Coughlin. We'll be joined again next week with both coaches and the Player of the Week for the next series of games. Thank you and have a great day.